Hi, I'm Mimi Combs, and these are all the books I read in 2016. If I Stay is a good overall book. It's not something I rave about to my friends. I did enjoy reading it. At times I felt it was kind of slow, or I didn't really understand things, like the point of things, but I think it's a good book, and if you haven't read it, you might want to read it. The movie's good too. The Fifth Wave was kind of confusing. I mean, it wasn't the best book. The movie wasn't perfect like I would expect it to be compared to the book. I wouldn't really recommend it to my friends, and especially later on in the series, it gets really weird, mental and weird, and I think that's kind of cool, and I've seen a lot of people who really enjoyed reading The Fifth Wave, but it's not really what I like to read. Matched was an interesting book. Later on in the series, I didn't enjoy it. I stopped after the second book. The first book, though, I did enjoy. I know a lot of people absolutely hate it, and other people love the first book but don't like the books after. But I wouldn't get into it if I knew that the books afterwards weren't good. So I don't recommend it, but if you want to try it, it's okay. Okay, so I read Perfect. I bought it at a thrift store because I thought it looked interesting. The summary looked interesting, but I didn't like the book at all. I just didn't like it at all. And then I read Crossed, so that's the second book in the Matched series, and this one was the one where basically there was no plot. Maybe the last book gets better, but I never read it, but I just felt like the second book was a waste of my time. When I read Looking for Alaska, it was after I read Perfect and Crossed, and so I was really kind of like not in a good reading position, and I think that that book was good because it was a really good book. I think it's more mature than the other books that I've read. If you're younger, I wouldn't recommend reading it, but I think it was a good book, and I liked reading it, and it was interesting, so it's good. Eleanor and Park is a good book. Read it. What else can I say? It's a story about Eleanor and Park and just their relationship, how they, like, their lives, and how they, you know, this is the one that whenever I go to the bookstore, I, like, push it in my friends' faces. Whenever we're at the library, I'm like, how about Eleanor and Park? How about Eleanor and Park? And they kind of, like, say no. But it's a good book, I swear. The False Prince and the Ascendance series was recommended to me by one of my friends, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. It's not what I usually read. It's more fantasy and medieval than what I usually read, but I think it was a really good book. It's good for more ages than other books. It's not young adult. It's a good book. It's medieval fantasy, and it's good. Runaway King is the second book in the Ascendance Trilogy, so basically they all tie in, to my opinion. Next, I read The Maze Runner, and I actually liked this book. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I really enjoyed the book, and I watched the movie after I read the book. Movie, I really thought, because they actually did everything the same, and I appreciated that about Maze Runner. I'll get into the second movie, though. I finished the Ascendance Trilogy after reading Maze Runner because I was rushed to read the Maze Runner book before we were going to see the movie. But then I finished the Ascendance Trilogy. The only problem I had with the last book was that I was so into Maze Runner that I didn't want to read it, but then when I read it, it was good. After I read that, I read The Scorch Trials and The Death Cure, and I loved it. Not a lot, but like, I loved it, and like, kind of. I get the things people don't like about it. I understand it. There's things I'm not a fan of, but at the same time, I like it a lot. And I thought that that trilogy was so good. So after I read those, I had such a high expectations for the movie, Scorch Trials. It was not good. It did not follow the book. I mean, I think it was a good movie, but if you had read the book, you wouldn't have liked the movie. Next, I read New Moon, and I hadn't read the first Twilight book, but I had watched all the movies, so I read the second book. I think Twilight is just slow. Maybe that's because I watched the movies already and I knew everything that was going to happen, but at the same time I felt like it was really slow. It was hard to get through, but I read it in a couple days. It was okay. I mean, if you haven't read the Twilight books, I wouldn't rush out to your library and get them, but I think the movies, the acting's bad. But I like the world that the Twilight is set in. I forget what happened in New Moon. I forget what happened in the whole book, and not a lot happens. So, Next, I read Kill Order, and it was the prologue to the Maze Runner series, and I didn't like it a lot. I mean, it was a lot of action, so if you like action, I guess, but not a lot. You don't really connect to the characters as much as you do to the characters in Maze Runner. I did enjoy it. I did, read the book. It didn't compare to the Maze Runner series, and I think if you leave it to stand alone from the Maze Runner series, the Maze Runner series looks better without that book. Next, I read Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, and I liked this book. Fangirl was good. I like Eleanor and Park a lot better. If you want to read it, go ahead and read it. Read it. It's a good book. Yeah. I wouldn't rush out to your library. If you want to rush out to your library, get Eleanor and Park, but like, after you finish Eleanor and Park, read Fangirl. Next, I read Stargirl, and I think this is a really good, book for younger readers. I didn't know when I bought it. I saw Gentle Strength recommended it, so I was like, oh, I can buy it at the thrift store and read it, and I liked it, and I thought it was good. For younger readers, it's definitely something to read. For older readers, it's good too. I think it was a good book. It had a good message. It's about conformity. Next, I read the first two Percy Jackson books, and I haven't read those before, and when I was younger, I didn't read, so I didn't have these books, and so when I read them now, I realized how kind of weird they were, and I think that's just a thing for all, younger books, but I think that's also kind of part of the charm of the Percy Jackson books, how weird and cool they are. I watched the movies when I was younger, and I completely forgot everything that happened in the movies. And then I read the books, and I kind of remembered, kind of parallels, but I didn't really think of them as the same. Everyone says the movies are bad, and I like the movies, but now I like the books, and I haven't watched the movies in a while, so I have no idea. I didn't finish the other books in the series. I have them, I just haven't read them yet. I have so many other books, and it's so difficult because I'm a slow reader. Klipsch is the next book I read. I didn't finish it. It was too boring. Go ahead and read it if you'd like to. The next book I read was Me Before You. This is definitely one of my favorites. I recommend this to people when we go to the library, except they've all already read it, so. And the movie's good too. I bought the movie. So go and read this one if you haven't. If you have already, just reread it. The next book I read was The Beginning of Everything, and I bought this at a thrift store not knowing anything about it. I'm just like, oh, this looks a nice cover, it's bright, I like it. It was an okay book. It was definitely probably something that I've read similar story before. It was good. I would recommend it. It's not the best book, but I mean, if someone wants book recommendations, it's a good book, I guess. Next, I read Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. It's in the play, it's like a script. It was good. It's not comparable to the Harry Potter books because the Harry Potter books are just set 7, but you know, it's kind of good just to read, just to have. It's not the same, but it's good, I guess. The next book I read is The Book Thief, and I loved this one. Everyone I recommended it to read it, said it was super slow, super boring, but I just think it's so amazing. Just The Book Thief is so good. It's a great book. Good book. Read it. Next, I buddy read Every Day by David Levithan with my friends, and we all enjoyed it because the book's so weird. You can just make so many jokes out of it. You could, like, I don't know, just, it's fun just to see what happens next. Talk with your friends and just kind of have fun with it. It's a fun book. It's really interesting and really weird. I wish they'd done more with it, though. I think it would be good. The next book I read was The Infinite Sea. I mean, I liked this book. I couldn't get through it that fast. I got kind of stuck on like the really fast parts. I don't know why. But I haven't read the last book yet, and I didn't really feel like I needed to after I read this book. I'm ready to. I mean, I know a lot of people love Fifth Wave series, but I don't know. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure. The next book I read is Raven Boys. It's a good book. It's an amazing book. I'm on the last book now. Oh no. But I read The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, and it's amazing. I watched Gentle Strength, Jenny's video, and convinced me. So I can link that video down below. So if you want to be convinced, you just watch that video. There's 4 books in the series, and I'm on the last one right now. They're good. The next book I read is The Summer I Turned Pretty, and I liked that book. However, I read it after I read The Raven Boys, and so I was really excited to read the second book of The Raven Boys, but I didn't want to like rush through them. And I probably would have liked it more if I wasn't reading it in the middle of a series I really liked. I don't know about who she ends up with. I don't know. My friends are strong Jeremiah fans. I don't know who she ends up with. I don't know. It's a series. I have only read the first book, so I'm not spoiling it, but like, I don't know. The next book I read is the second book in the Raven Cycle series, so that one's called The Dream Thieves, and I liked it a lot. Ronan, good character, good book, I enjoyed it. Yeah, this book took me like a week to read, but I enjoyed it a lot, and it was good. Read The Raven Boys first, down below. The next book I read is The Fever Code, and that was the follow-up to the prologue of Kill Order, but like it happens before Maze Runner, so it's kind of like the prologue. Anyway, Fever Code, not much excitement. I wasn't too excited because you know what's going to happen, and that's the problem with prologues. But I think it's good. The prologue. The prologue is good, so you gotta read the prologue, and if you read the prologue, then you don't gotta read the book, because the book is just like wicked. And the last book I read this year is Blue Lily Lily Blue, and that's the 3rd book in the Raven Cycle series, and this book was also really good. This book I was in a reading slump for, and I felt really bad. It took me a month to read one book, and like my friends were trying to convince me all the time, like, you have to read it, you have to just finish it, but I just couldn't. I loved the book so much, and that's why I couldn't read it. I don't know if that's a normal problem, but I finished it, so it's good. And I'm on the last book, and that'll probably be the first book I read in 2007.